Here's the bad news in some people's eyes. That's $113 million less guaranteed than he could have signed for.
Jalen Brunson had $269 million waiting for him, but instead he took a 42% pay cut, only taking $156 million. Now, if you don't know, this is the biggest pay cut in NBA history, and the big question is, why on earth did he do it? Why didn't he wait? What was the motive? The Knicks didn't even make it past the second round last year, so why take the risk on a team that may not be a contender? If you want to know the answer, then stick around.
Did you feel a sense of pressure when coming to New York?
There was never pressure for me. Never.
Brunson had one more year left in his contract where he could have exercised his player option, opted into free agency, or re-signed with the Knicks. Coming to the end of his current $104 million contract, and after a fairly exciting year for the Knicks, along with Brunson putting up some crazy numbers, breaking records, and ultimately walking through some of his prime years.
Brunson drives, pulls up three-pointer, puts it in. Jalen Brunson nails a three.
He was clearly a hot commodity and deserved way more than what he chose to work with, especially after a historic season. Let's walk through that real quick. It all started on December 15th against the Phoenix Suns after Jalen put up his first 50-point game.
It's good! A 50-point night for Jalen Brunson. It's the best three-point shooting game by a Knick since Latrell Sprewell.
And then on a side note, shortly after that, the Knicks made a crazy trade, giving up RJ Barrett and acquiring OG Anunoby. The reason we're bringing up that trade is because something clicked for the team, and it helped catapult the Knicks toward the top of the East. As a result, it helped Brunson focus on what he does best. And it showed because on March 16th, Jalen became the first Knicks player since Carmelo Anthony to put up 40-point back-to-back games.
Put up 40 for Brunson, joining an exclusive club. He's only the fourth Knick in franchise history to score 40 in back-to-back games, along with Bernard King, Patrick Ewing, and Carmelo Anthony.
2 weeks later, Jalen put up a 61-point game against the Spurs, making it the second highest in team history. And then just over a week later,
Drives on Lillard, goes inside, turns, shoots, and scores 41 for Brunson.
Jalen joined Bernard King and Patrick Ewing as the only players in team history with 10 plus 40-point games in a single season. As a result, he led the NBA regular season in points at 1384. Like, what a way to end off the regular season. Now, if you followed the NBA this year, you know what's about to happen in the playoffs.
Maxey with 18, Embiid already with a double-double, 16 and 10.
Well, Brunson with contact and one.
With Anunoby to his left, Brunson weaving, floating and hitting.
Jalen continued to bring the reign, becoming the first player since Michael Jordan to put up 39-plus points in 4 straight playoff games, making a new franchise record with the highest points scored by a Knicks player in the playoffs. He also became the first Knicks player to average 30-plus points per game and 8-plus assists per game in a single playoff series. Now, before we jump back into the pay cut discussion, let's end off with round 2.
Which is why the Knicks can get in the paint and score.
Brunson, silky smooth. Brunson stops it. 7-0 run. Knicks lead by 2. Brunson over Nembhard. Cash it in.
After game 1, Jalen became the first and only player in NBA history to put up 40-plus points and 5 assists in 4 straight playoff games. So after a performance like that, taking a 42% pay cut is absolutely wild. The Knicks were capped on how much they could pay Brunson. That said, his value would have allowed him to re-sign with the Knicks at $269 million by the end of his contract. Instead, Jalen did something that took everyone off guard. It was clear that Brunson loved New York and the franchise. But if he knew that, why didn't he just wait? That way he could make even more money and still play with the city he loves. There's really only one answer: an NBA title. Brunson's priority was winning. Aside from wanting to play for head coach Tom Thibodeau and his friends, he wanted to win. And being able to win with his friends was also just as important. It was actually mentioned that he was so caught up hanging out with his friend Josh Hart, who also played college ball with him in Villanova, that he delayed re-signing his new contract. But when it happened, it was a historic moment for the Knicks, as no one had ever recommitted to any team in league history in this manner. Jalen did the Knicks in the NBA a massive favor. After this, Josh made a tweet, "Build him a statue." The funny part was it wasn't directed to the Knicks, NBA, or even mentioned Jalen, but it was obvious who and what it was about. Again, waiting would have made him way more money. So aside from just striving to win an NBA title, what's the motive? I mean, he could have jumped ship like other players have in the past and joined a team that is a solid contender for the chip. Even though, if we're being honest, it does look like the Knicks will be a solid contender too. So what's the motive that made him leave all that money on the table? Now, on a side note, let's add some context. Historically, some of the biggest pay cuts involved players who had already already got the bag and were set for life. For example, Dirk Nowitzki took a 3-year, $25 million deal to return to the Mavs in 2014, even though he could have made almost 4 times that amount somewhere else. Another example was Tim Duncan. He took a pay cut as well, so he could stay with the Spurs, but at this point in his career, he was a vet, and like I said earlier, already got the bag and was set for life. I mean, LeBron just did this with the Lakers as well, to help keep the team's salary cap stay under the second apron. Kevin Durant also did this when he played for the Warriors. So now, back to the motive. What was it? Culture. You've probably heard the saying, if you love what you do for work, you'll never work a day in your life. But if you already have that and work with your best friends, that takes everything up a notch. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo all played together in college at Villanova. Now, after adding Mikal Bridges in the offseason, it just sweetens the pot. When you build a culture you love being a part of, along with a vision to win, taking a pay cut actually doesn't affect you as much. At the end of the day, the money becomes secondary, and it makes your career that much more fulfilling. While the 4 of them won a national championship together at Villanova. 8 years later, they'll work together and strive for an NBA title. All that said, Mikal Bridges is also more than just a friend, but he's a great addition to the Knicks and actually makes them more dangerous this upcoming season. After the trade, the odds for the Knicks winning the NBA title this upcoming year boosted from plus 1,500 to plus 700. And let's also add that Mikal Bridges is healthy. Over the last 6 seasons, he has not missed 1 game. On top of that, being an ideal fit for basketball reasons worked out, but when it came to fitting in the culture with his personality, it also worked just as great, knowing that these guys all have history together. Also, with OG in the mix, these Knicks don't have to rely on just one player to produce anymore. They've got a number of players that can make waves this season. As a result, Bridges and Anunoby might just be the NBA's best defensive wing duo. And to top that off, Josh Hart can also step in. Ultimately, this is what makes taking a risk on a team that didn't make it past the second round worth it. Because now, there's a long-term investment to work with. So now that the Knicks have all this extra money, what's the game plan? Obviously, Brunson had his reasons to take the pay cut, but how will this benefit the Knicks? The game plan is to become more open for business, whether that's keeping key players around or negotiating. Brunson wanted to give the Knicks the flexibility to maximize their roster, and as a result, the Knicks now have the most payroll flexibility in the league, stacked with vets and barely any rookie deals. Now they can move forward a lot easier, knowing they have Brunson until at least 2028. And if you think about it, this is still a smart move for him, because who knows what will happen between now and then. Players get hurt, team dynamics change, the Knicks could go in a different direction, a lot can happen, and sometimes even overnight. Historically, small point guards like Brunson have been known to get left on the wayside, but as of right now, he's guaranteed the next 4 years regardless of what happens to him. And by the time his contract is up, he may be eligible for the biggest max contract in league history, projected to be $417 million over 5 years. After trading away 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, this team believes their title window is open and need to act now. The Knicks went all in during the offseason. As mentioned earlier, they got Mikal Bridges. OG re-signed with the Knicks over the next 5 years, but it did come at a cost. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein, Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, Shake Milton, Mamadi Diakite, and the 5 first-round picks we just mentioned. But losing Hartenstein was big, so if Mitchell Robinson can stay healthy, he can step in, and the Knicks will just need a solid backup center to help with their rotation. But if Robinson can't stay healthy, then Coach Tom Thibodeau will have to make some tough decisions. But all that comes with the risks they took.
Right after that, I love FaceTime. Look how cute he is. Look how happy he is. He was so excited.
Oh, man.